What's up, you guys, and welcome back to today's YouTube video. Now, in this video, we are going to be talking about what you need to consider before you start a business. Now, for those of you who know me, you know that I deeply believe being an entrepreneur, owning your time and the contributions you make to this world, and in return, owning how much money you bring in as a result is an incredible investment. It's honestly one of the best investments you will ever make. And I say this with the baked-in assumption that you're building with the strong foundation and the right strategies to actually make your business successful. If you didn't know, over 90% of businesses fail in the first 3 years. And if I'm being honest with you, which I will always do, I believe it's because people are given bad advice and honestly not given the appropriate support needed to make a business successful. So, if you want to know what you need to consider before you start a business, especially if you want to build a successful business, then make sure you watch this entire video because you're going to need each point or each consideration to develop a thoughtful approach to starting your business. You guys, my name's Chloe, if you don't know, and I'm an entrepreneur who's led over $2 billion in investment for communities, and I pivoted my career to help you. Now, I can't say that this is totally selfless because I have a dream for you. In our world, I've been seeing so many challenges get more complex, and across me having the honor to lead over $2 billion in investment, I have to be honest, it was frustrating because I knew my impact was just a drop in the bucket. So once I figured out how to lead billions, how to heal myself, how to, own my time, live a life that I loved, I knew that if I helped you do the same, you would step into the leadership that we need to help solve our big problems like poverty, violence, climate change, you name it. So that's why I'm here. And, across my journey, I've taken everything that I've learned and going from truly $0, you guys, I was not born wealthy, into leading billions. I've taken that and turned it into 10 principles for you to build with, and I've put it into my first book. Spoiler, you can get a copy of my book for free in the description box below, and I've made it truly free, no shipping and handling, nothing. It's an instant download so that there's nothing in between you and having the tools you need to build wealth, heal yourself, and help other people do the same. Now with that, let's jump in to the goodness in today's video. So you guys have already heard me say in the intro that traditional business advice is really not geared for you to be successful. And I know that's a bit of a hot take, but you've already heard this kind of advice of the start before you're ready, just take the leap of faith, this, that, the third, just throw stuff against the wall till you see what works. This is advice that comes from, oh y'all, and this is gonna come out so hot, so spicy, but this advice at best is trying to get you to just take action, right? But at worst, it's coming from people who don't know what they're talking about. And when you take that piece of advice, and I know some people are gonna say I'm taking it out of context, but when it's given out of context, it really is a very privileged position and privileged set of advice to give because it is super risky. To start before you're ready with no training, no plan, none of that is honestly a recipe for disaster. And it is the exception if you are successful, right? It's the exception if you have the training, the tools, the community, the support, etc., to build a successful business before you're ready. And so this kind of advice frustrates me. And I believe it's one of the reasons that, like I said earlier, 90% of businesses fail in the first 3 years because we don't have good, sound business advice that's popular, that's in the mainstream. And so I hope I can be part of the conversation that helps you get better advice. So I'm about to go through some tips you might want to get pen and paper, open up your notes app, because you're gonna need to come back to this, okay? You can also save this video so you don't have to look for it again, but you're gonna need to consider these points that I lay out in great detail before you start your business. So the first thing that I'm always gonna tell you is you need to know your why, right? What is it that drives you? And the reason I want you to know this is severalfold, right? I want you to know this because you need a motivation that is completely internal in order to have the energetic stamina to be an entrepreneur. I know that you guys, like, people glamorize entrepreneurship so much, but the truth is it's hard. I'm not going to say it's harder or easier than your job, but it's certainly hard. And I love the phrase, you choose your hard, because with entrepreneurship, that's what you're doing. You're not stepping into something that's easier. You're not stepping into something that's cookie cutter. These are like the few steps that you take and it just magically works. You're stepping into something that requires you to have the bandwidth emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, etc., to navigate different challenges and stick with it. That stick with itness is what separates successful entrepreneurs from those who flame out very quickly. So I need you to have a motivation that is intrinsic, right? Not the external validation, not chasing something that, like, not using it to be like avoidance and run away from something that you're not wanting to deal with, right? You need to know a why that is healthy. And that kind of motivation is going to give you the stamina needed, like I said. Now, it's also going to really matter for what kind of business you build, right? So if you know that your why is financial freedom, then you're going to make sure that you have a business that's priced and structured in a way that actually gives you that financial freedom. The next thing that you need to get really clear on, and this is one I suggest you write down with pen and paper, like during this video or after this video, write this with pen and paper, because you need to focus. You need to outline what are your goals for this business, right? So similar to your why in terms of like, why is it that you care? What is it that you want out of the business? And I mean, like, I need you to get selfish, okay? I don't want to hear you talking about you want to change the world. We'll get there later. But we have to start with you, right? Going back to that motivation piece, I need you to know what not only what drives you, but what are the rules you're going to build with, right? And the rules you're going to build with come from what are your goals. So if your goal is to make like a little side money, just a few dollars on the side, your side hustle or business is going to look very different than if your goal is to create an economic engine for your community, right? If your goal is to become a millionaire, which I want all of you to do, your work is going to look different than if you just want to sell something one time just to say that you've sold something, right? Like, you need to get clear on your goals. The same thing is true of if you want location freedom. Your business is going to look different than if you want a brick and mortar store that you need to be at. So I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong, but you do need to outline what are your goals with your business so that later on they turn into the principles that you build with. Knowing what your goals are will help you say the right yeses and the right nos as you build, so that you're building the right thing, right? Because so often, and this is why the traditional business advice drives me crazy, people will say like, oh, just kind of go out there without setting the goals, without the plan. And truthfully, you might make traction in the wrong direction. So then you've kind of like, and I don't really believe in like wasted time, because you're always growing, you're always learning, but you're spending time building in the wrong direction. So you're going to lose some efficacy. You are going to lose some time on the trajectory of building what you genuinely want. This also goes back to, circling back to identifying your why and knowing, like, getting clarity on what you want. Your why and your goals need to be driven by your true desires. Like, who are you, right? Your goals need to be driven by what you want to create, not what you believe other people want you to create. So this is going to take us into part 3, which is you got to decide, is it going to be a hobby or a business? You guys, sometimes and oftentimes you are going to be brilliantly gifted in certain areas that you should also never turn into a business, okay? I want you to hear me say that again. Not everything you create or everything you produce should be monetized. There are some things that you need to save and preserve just for you to enjoy, because you as a person are so much more than just like productivity for the sake of return. There are parts of your energy, parts of your life that deserve and require you to just create just for creation's sake. Like, if you guys go on my Instagram, for example, I posted a reel not too long ago of me building a flower bouquet. And some of my homegirls hit me up saying, yeah, this is your sign. to launch, like to build a flower shop. And it's so sweet. And my mom my whole life has been like, girl, you can sell that. You got the gift from your grandma. It is so sweet, you guys. And that's not what I want for that skill. I love building flower arrangements because it just gives me joy and I want it to stay that way, right? And if I'm keeping it a buck with you, I also know I won't make nearly as much money doing that than doing this. So, when we go back to what are the goals you have, etc., being in the flower business, the way that I most enjoy, not period, because you can be in the flower business and make literally as much money as you want. But for what I like to do, the work I like to do with my hands and like placing the stems, like doing all the things, that's not going to make me the money I want. So the same is true for you. There are going to be things that people have complimented you on. There are going to be things people have affirmed you for your whole life. And it might not be your business, right? Like it might not be what you should turn into what you base your livelihood on. And so you have to get really clear and do some kind of self-exploration work to know, okay, do I actually enjoy this, or do people just praise me for it? Bloop. 2, do I want to do this, or do I want to please other people who I want to see me as doing good or doing what they've told me to? Or 3, is this actually what I want to do? And maybe I'm just scared, so I've been shying away from it, right? There are more answers than just those 3 I've outlined, but I wanted to give you some examples of what I think you should be working through or thinking through as you are planning out your business, right? Or seeing what should be kept as hobbies. And then once you started to get a sense of, what is your why? What are your goals? Should this be a hobby or a business? Let's say you've gone through these and you're like, ooh, I have a business idea. Good. This is where I love this moment because this is where rubber can meet the road. Now, for so many of you, I know you're working at jobs that, if I'm being honest, you probably do fantastic work. You probably do, honestly, better work than what they pay you for. Or on the flip side, you're not giving your all because you're burnt out, you're underfulfilled, you know that you're not supposed to be where you are. So the internal friction you're feeling is keeping you from not engaging, right? There are several places along the continuum that you may be, but the point is, if you clicked on this video, I know you've got the entrepreneurial tug in you or on you. And so with that, I want you to have some more tactical tips to start mapping this out, right? So you've got a business idea. Now you've got to review your finances and make a plan. You've got to start looking at how do you start this business with some kind of safety net, okay? And this is where I really think traditional advice does people dirty. Because people will say just go out, just go on a leap of faith, etc., but not talk about the numbers of what you need in order to be safe. And now you guys, know this, that I experienced poverty growing up. I have seen my communities struggle financially for so many reasons, right? And I swore to myself when I started teaching other people how to build wealth, I was never going to put people in scarcity. I was never going to tell people to risk their financial well-being because it's not... Y'all, my Memphis came out. I was about to say, ain't sweet, but no, for real, this is not that. We don't do that here. So I want you to build in a way that is deeply, is rooted in strength, okay? And so what this looks like is 3 different things, right? You need to have savings as you're starting a business to where you're not reliant on the business to support your immediate or even semi-long-term livelihood. Because when you're relying on a startup to fund your livelihood, you're putting yourself into stress and chaos, period. You are throwing your nervous system on high alert. You are going to, and when your nervous system is on high alert, everything's on high alert. Okay, so you can't even have the type of clarity needed to make the right decisions, support the team members, etc., to build with the kind of abundance needed for your business to be successful. You'll be building from scarcity. So you need to have savings, 1. 2, I know that some people don't just have a stack of cash laying around, okay? I was also one of those people. I didn't just have savings. So there are a couple of ways that you can also have a safety net that I'm going to talk to you about. One of them is going to be have a multi-income household, right? And I'm not just saying like a romantic partner. If you have family members or parents that like agree and consent to like letting you have some time to incubate, that's such a blessing. It's such a privilege. And I hope that if you have that kind of opportunity, I hope you take it. I hope you take it. And of course, like once you make it, like pay them back. You know what I mean? Like reciprocity is huge. Or like do chores, like do something to make sure you contribute now and make sure you're grateful in the future, right? So for sure, it's a community effort. But also like if you have someone who can help you along the way, that is something that I hope you don't let your pride keep you from. Okay. And I'm not saying to degrade yourself. I'm not saying that you should do it with somebody who's going to hold it over your head. I don't mean that at all. Right. But especially a lot of my clients who are married, and they will say, yes, my partner supports me. And so I'm able to do this without the stress of worrying about our livelihood. So I just want to affirm, if that is a possibility for you, take it. Take it, and also understand you've got another part of your mission, which is to show them that you and your business was a worthwhile investment, right? And then the third option, which is actually one that I personally recommend, even though, and we'll like, okay, let me tell you what it is first, and then I'll tell you with a caveat why I recommend it. The third one I'm going to recommend is to figure out a way to get capital through some kind of loan. Now, I rarely encourage you all to take on debt because I don't know you well enough to know what point in your journey you're at. Can you how much debt? How can you afford it? What's it going to do to your credit? Like there's several different variables, right? So I don't just universally or generally say absolutely take a loan. However, there are certain instances in which you have enough padding or stability in your financial ecosystem to take a loan and for it to not only be safe, but be transformative. And your girl did this. You guys know I'm big on transparency. To leave my job, which I knew I had to do, I refinanced my house. Right? So I already had a property, I refinanced it, and that money was my buffer. So I tell you guys this because the only reason I needed to do it was actually I read it in a book. Funny enough, I read it in Barack Obama's latest memoir, where he was explaining that he refinanced his home to have enough cushion to write his first book, right? And I remember reading that and being like, oh my goodness, this is how you use an investment that you have to give you more freedom, to give you more time, more agency in your life, etc. So if you are interested in mapping out how the finances and figuring out what kind of cushion, how much, etc., make sure you subscribe to my channel because one of the upcoming videos is going to be how to budget to leave your job. The kind of framework I walk you through is the framework I walk through with all of my clients and how to get them from their 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship without scarcity, without penny pinching, and to make sure not only do you feel safe, but you genuinely are safe. Now, no video of mine would be complete without making sure that I talk about mindset just a little bit, right? Especially as it relates to businesses. You guys, so often people talk about, you're just going to grind it out, stepping into the hustle, etc. And I actually think that before you start a business, you need to commit to not doing this. You guys, so many people believe that hustle culture is the way to build a strong business. And the truth is, it's just simply inaccurate. There's lots of data that shows this. Look at high performance data, look at how athletes function, right? They're resting, they're really focused. So the time that they are spending is exponentially effective to people who are just scattered and just ruminating all the time and not clear on what or why or how they're doing what they're doing. They figure just effort will get you there. That's not true. Effort alone is not going to get you there. And that's also why hustle culture doesn't work. You need the right strategies, which all starts with the right mindset. And so this is going to be my moment with you to talk about, and I'm not going to go in depth with it. I'll actually leave a playlist for you because I talk about this on my channel all the time, but you have to commit to two things. One is you have to commit to your well-being. Your business, your life, even your relationships, anything that you want to spend your time doing is only going to be as good as the quality of your health and your approach to the thing, right? And just as an example, how many times have you heard the same comment, the same story, and you reacted to it in very different ways based on how stressed you were? It can be the same thing, but your level of stress determines the filter with which you read or receive the experience. And with that, as you're building a business, if you're stressed out the entire time, if your nervous system is on a high alert, if you are in scarcity, etc., it's going to be hellish to build your business. And that's not why you're building a business. You're not building a business to put yourself into hardship. You're building a business to give yourself more freedom over your time, over your finances, to have more space and bandwidth to enjoy this one life you've been gifted, right? So that's number one. And number two, which is going to start wrapping up our video, is that through all of this, you've got to release perfectionism. You guys, I'm not going to go on my whole soapbox about it, although I might. But perfectionism is not real. There is no perfect, right? Because every time you reach what you think is perfect, there's always a level that's better, right? Or more nuanced, or, better quality. Perfectionism is actually a fear. It's a fear of being found out as a fraud, as an imposter. It's an agitation of an internal worthiness wound. Perfectionism is not having high standards. They're different. So kind of circling back to, as you've gotten to the point of hobby or business, you pick the business, you have the financial plan to make it happen, you have to start. And this is where I think traditional business advice is trying to support you in saying, stop trying to wait till it's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. Stop trying to wait until you've thought yourself in circles and wasted years of time. You've got to start now. Imperfect action is how you build a business, but it's got to be informed. So if this video was helpful to you at all, I've got some recommendations for you. Of course, there are videos, and I'm going to recommend to you my book. I want you to get your copy while they're free and while they last, because I'm giving you all the principles that I took along my journey from $0 to $2 billion. I distilled them for you, and I'm using them to help you heal yourself, build wealth for generations, and to help other people do the same. And y'all, this is so important to me, and I think it is to you too, because we know we're all we've got. So I'm showing up for you. I want you to show up for you, and show up for the people around you by downloading this book, watch these videos, and take imperfect action. I promise it's going to change your life. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Ciao.